Hello humans, welcome to The Frontline, a leadership and business podcast brought to you by Peregrine Corporate Services, an Isle of Man fiduciary provider. My name is Martin Hall. Thanks for listening. Today we're joined by Katie Nicholson of Petra Consulting and also the president of the Isle of Man Business Network. Welcome and thanks for joining us today, Katie, much appreciated. So to get a bit of background for the listeners and the viewers on YouTube about yourself, perhaps you could give us a bit of background to where you grew up and your sort of schooling time.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in the Isle of Man, but my parents were living in Cyprus at the time. So when I was 10 days old, I went back to live in Cyprus with the family there, and then lived in Cyprus, grew up in Cyprus, had a great childhood there until I was 10, and then moved back to the island to be closer to my mum's family. So went through secondary education on the Isle of Man. Okay.
And then did you end up away at uni?
Yeah, so then I went to Leeds for 4 years and studied retail marketing and management. Quite a bizarre. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I left school. And in hindsight, I probably should have taken a gap year. But I don't know if it was just a cultural thing. Back then, it wasn't really the done thing. So I went through clearing in the end because I'd done some work experience in the summer break and decided that marketing was, something that actually interested me. So went through clearing and then spent 4 years studying that.
I've not been to uni. What's clearing?
So it's when you basically, when results day comes around and any courses that kind of have capacity in them because certain people haven't met the grades, for example, or they're not fully subscribed, they then release places. Okay. So I'd originally applied to do international relations and psychology and nutrition and all kinds of stuff. It was a bit all over the place. So I'd been to visit Leeds and I really liked Leeds. So I kind of went with the city rather than the course at the time.
Yeah, right. And it's always hard at that age, isn't it? Picking making somewhat life decisions often, aren't they? At such a young age.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to know. And I did the international baccalaureate, so I did 6 subjects. So it was a lot. I studied a lot of different things. So it wasn't as if I was kind of destined to be a scientist and studied, the 3 sciences at A level, for example. Right. But in the same sense, in hindsight, it kind of opened the opportunities up a bit more as well.
And then when uni finished, did you come straight back to the island? Miss the beautiful...
Yeah, so it was, I was desperate to move to London, but it was 2009, it was a recession. There were no graduate jobs really, unless I kind of wanted to work for Foxtons in London. They were the kind of only people hiring at the time, or there was really fiercely competitive graduate schemes. But it was also a bit of an understanding that I'd probably still be relying on family to support me living there and with like the wages at the time. And then the Isle of Man government started this really great scheme in line with Manx graduates. So they paid for me to do an MBA along with 4 other people, all of whom I'm friends with today actually. And so I worked at PDMS, which is a local software company many people will know, 4 days a week. And then I went to the business school on the Friday and spent 2 years studying for the MBA there, which was great and a great opportunity. And I never thought I would have that opportunity, or I don't think I felt ready to study again. But then when that was presented to me, it was such a good opportunity. I couldn't really turn it down.
And sorry, I don't know whether you said that. What was the MBA in?
So it's just a general master's in business.
Okay, right, okay. So were you then starting to feel like you had a focus on where you wanted to take your career?
No, it was great. I loved the theory of it, but at the time I was working as a marketing executive. A lot of the theory that we were learning was about managing teams and strategic leadership, and it was quite difficult for me to implement that in my day-to-day role, because I was actually part of a team rather than managing a team. But what I found as I've kind of gone on throughout my working years, that kind of theory that I learned back then, it has now started to come into play a bit more.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
And just the experience really, because it was 4 people in a class, we had great teachers. It was just a great opportunity really to learn.
Yeah, very, I suppose, hands-on when the groups are small, isn't it? You get to get real care, I suppose, care by the teacher and information out of the teacher being such a small group.
Yeah, and I think it also gave me opportunity for career progression along the way. So I went to Paddy Power after I got my MBA, and a lot of that, the people in my team predominantly had masters or PhDs, so it was kind of a prerequisite to be able to get into that kind of team. So I never would have achieved that if I'd not had the MBA.
What were you doing at Paddy Power?
Digital display, mobile advertising. So essentially, or digital acquisition, essentially. So hiring new, wait, I'll start again, just cut that a bit. So I was essentially onboarding new customers and trying to kind of acquire new customers. So if you ever see those adverts, if you ever go on John Lewis and you try and buy something and then you don't complete the transaction, our team were there kind of putting adverts in place to encourage people to set up a new account.
And so during those years as well, you did a bit of work with victim support.
Yeah.
Obviously volunteer, I assume. I assume that was difficult at times, I guess, but also rewarding.
Yeah, so that came about because someone who was on the board at the time, it was when social media was kind of first becoming a thing, and obviously for charities and small organisations, it's a free platform. It's a great way for them to kind of spread the word about what they're doing. So I was asked to help out with that initially, and then I joined the board of trustees, really to try and help with fundraising and help bring in kind of a younger demographic, but also assist with the social media side of things. And it was really fascinating. I think that obviously it's not something that, the Isle of Man is a great place and there's the incidences of, like, for example, domestic violence everywhere, but I think people don't tend to think it happens on their doorstep. And actually when you get behind the scenes and you see the amazing work that they're doing and the amount of cases and victims that they are working with on a monthly basis, it's really quite incredible to see.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And then that led into, and certainly where we first sort of crossed paths when you were working at the Bridge Angel Network. And obviously there, certainly I understand, well, I'll let you describe how it was, or how it functioned. I think it's closed now, hasn't it? It's shut down, yeah. But that was obviously, well, maybe you can provide a bit of background to what that network did and how you fitted in there.
Yeah, so I started with Bridge in April 2016. And was there for just over 3 years. So that was an angel network originally set up off the back of the Enterprise Development Scheme. We'd seen, and there was 5 corporate sponsors, and they'd all seen things work very well in the UK with angel networks and helping like growth funds and trying to like enable the economy. So that was set up, and then we worked with over, I don't know, hundreds after the 3 years of businesses and startups and individuals either on the Isle of Man or looking to relocate their business to the Isle of Man.
Okay. So you obviously in that scenario, you'll come across a lot of entrepreneurs or people are believing them to be entrepreneurs, depending on the business model.
All sorts of people.
I presume
it was
you learn
really
a lot.
interesting. Yeah, I think the most interesting part was actually just seeing everyone's different personalities and what kind of drove different people to do different things and the rationale behind things and that perseverance, I guess.
Did you find perhaps in that entrepreneur space, did you often see sort of common traits between entrepreneurs coming to you? I presume obviously passion is ultimately always one thing, but certain other traits that you might have seen.
Yeah, so I'd say resilience would definitely be one. A lot of the people we were seeing were really kind of on that fundraising round where they were really knocking on all the doors and they were going out and pitching at events all over the UK and, reaching out to their networks, trying to kind of leverage other people's networks to really help them get that funding round closed to enable them to move to the next step of their journey, which at times can be very frustrating because, loads of different things come into it, like legal work and things that can slow the process down, and then that has an impact on the business, and they're obviously a lot of the time on their own and they're wearing 10 different hats. So if they're focusing on raising cash, it becomes difficult to do the day-to-day of like moving the business along.
And did you often see, I guess at times they become, if you're coming into looking at cases from a sort of cold angle of being brought into it, sometimes you can kind of see glaring problems, if that's the right term. I presume that was maybe quite common because I guess certainly some entrepreneurs, they're so focused on the idea, they're blinkered really, and kind of the vision's not too wide. I assume again part of that role was to try and get them to help to widen that vision if they were a bit
Yes, so a lot of what we did, and myself and the board, for example, and a couple of the people that worked with us as mentors, was to really get the people to talk through those ideas, explain the rationale, explain why they thought it would work in a certain way. And if it wasn't something that was kind of, trying not to steer them in a certain direction, but try and get them to see things in a different way, to make them kind of see the bigger picture sometimes.
And out of the back of that, I don't know whether it was ever a confidential thing, is the success stories out of what's come?
Yeah, so we had quite a few investments. Our kind of ratio, I can't remember it now off the top of my head, but it was higher than the UK originally. I think 1% of startups in the UK get funded, and I think ours was sitting at about 10%.
Oh, right,
but
okay, yeah.
That it's been a year, so I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, we've got some of them are still going today. Obviously hit challenging times now due to COVID-19, so it's kind of it's quite heart-wrenching when you see how well people have done, and then to get to this point where clearly everyone's affected, but obviously sometimes startups with not much working capital are in a bit more of a vulnerable position.
Yeah, of course. And just to go back to the entrepreneur point, you kind of touched on it there, maybe around that, having that blinkered vision, but did you see common mistakes or common errors by entrepreneurs that would crop up from time to time? Was it just the fact they were often just so focused on the product that they weren't looking at the wider side, or
I think it was different. I think it's different because I think some people, it's not necessarily a negative to be so focused because they were so passionate about it, and sometimes those people are the people that really get it across the line because they can see something that other people may not necessarily actually see. So that's the kind of genius in the whole thing. For others, it was just trying to kind of give the support that was needed, especially individual founders. Sometimes they just don't have that person to bounce their ideas off, and to actually, you can get so caught up in your own head thinking the same thing that it becomes quite challenging.
Yeah. And that's so that for the listeners, that's a bit of background to yourself. I suppose just outside of work, what do you enjoy doing? Just to switch subjects completely.
Socialising, which I'm missing at the moment. I also really enjoy playing hockey. So I play for Castown Hockey Club, mixed hockey and ladies hockey.
Okay.
So we were just reaching the end of the season. We had one game to play, which sadly got cancelled at the end of March.
So has the season just been ended?
Yeah, so we had one game to play. I don't know, depending on how things go, whether they'll finish the rest of the league. And I think we had a plate game as well to play. So I think it would be nice to be able to play it before the end of summer, but we'll see what happens.
And the socialising side, is that now just down to house party, Zoom and WhatsApp?
Zoom, yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about house party. There's all this kind of controversy about the hacking and that kind of thing. So trying to stick to Zoom and FaceTime.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at present day, obviously you mentioned earlier, and you just mentioned about the virus that's going on. We're kind of all in lockdown. For yourself at the moment, got a few different roles going on. Maybe we'll start with Petra Consulting. Maybe talk a little bit about what you do there and what you're looking to do as well in the future.
So Petra came about last summer when I decided that it was kind of a change, time for a change after Bridge, and decided to kind of take some time out really to just see what I actually wanted to do and I kind of got to a point of kind of pretty much burnout. I was doing way too much, and I just kind of thought, right, I'm going to take a couple of months to sit back and reassess what I want to do. And then a couple of opportunities came about, which led to me setting up Petra as my own kind of company, which would enable me to do those projects. So it's been really interesting. The years flown by. Had the opportunity to work with some large corporates, the government, and also some smaller startup businesses as well. So it's been really great to have that variety.
Now, how do you find that? Obviously now with what's going on, every company's sort of taking a step back and a breathing and going kind of what you consider maybe back to basics of just functioning for certainly a period of time. Certainly, I guess when you're consulting with people, naturally the first people they look at are, keeping costs down, etc. I assume that ultimately has an impact at this moment in time on yourself.
Yeah, so it has impacted me. So I was doing 5 days a week across various clients before this happened. I've actually gone down to 0 hours now.
Right.
So obviously
it is talk to me.
Pardon?
You get to talk to me though.
Yeah.
No.
So it's actually quite weird, because I think before, when you kind of start out on your own, you don't want to say no to anything and you say yes to everything. And before, I didn't have really a set plan of like, this is what my ideal client would look like. I've always enjoyed working with big teams, and I've also enjoyed working with smaller teams. So to have that variety was really great for me. And I think that now that work has kind of gone, because like you say, consultants, which is completely understandable. Like if I was running a business, it would be the same, and everyone is kind of doing what they can to protect their businesses at the moment. So actually, it's really given me some time again to kind of have a stop, have a bit of a breather. For example, I did the micro business course in October. I never got to write the business plan and actually apply for any of the grant assistance because I was too busy just with clients. So actually now it gives me that opportunity to set up a website and do all the things that I never actually did back then.
No, it makes sense. And in fairness, I think hopefully this will be a fairly short period of time of lockdown. I think certainly Peregrine is something I imagine a lot of firms are doing is, you sort of take a step back and take a breath of what's going on, but you have to kind of plan of what will it look like in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and then get on the front foot, which again to me is, not sitting back in your shell, but going out, hiring consultants, working with people to develop and find those opportunities. Even if the world didn't change when you locked down for a year, my feeling is you still need to think about that. And how would your business look in a year? If it was like that, would your business be around, or how would you need to adapt it? So I'm sure many opportunities will come very short term. I think it's just that immediate knee-jerk reaction of everyone of kind of just taking a step back and taking an intake of breath. So you also work within startup and founded. Bit of background to those and how those work.
So Startup Grind is actually a global network of entrepreneurs. So there's it's the world's largest network of entrepreneurs. So it was started by a guy called Derek Anderson in San Francisco. And he decided to, bring entrepreneurs and startups together. And then it kind of grew into this thing where he decided to grow it outwards across the world. So there's 600 chapters in 125 countries. And it's just really a fantastic network. So myself and Alex Wilson, who's one of the co-founders of Founded, along with John Garland, we actually went to the San Francisco Startup Global Conference in February. It seems ages ago now, but it was 10 years and it was just incredible to see. They had amazing speakers, companies pitching. It was a 2-day global summit, and then we had a directors summit for 2 days after that, and just being part of that community and the values that Startup Grind have. So they're very much focused around helping others, making friends, not contacts, and giving back. And it's quite American, it's the American way of doing things. They are very friendly and approachable all the time. But I think that just being, especially now actually at this time, they've so all their business model is running events. So we would run events through the Isle of Man chapter here, and they would take a commission of the sales that we sell. So obviously their business is completely kind of dried up overnight from all those people all over the world running events. So they pivoted really quickly and they built an online platform. So now they're delivering virtual events, which is actually really good, because we got to go to America, meet all these people, meet all these other chapter directors. And now we can actually attend their events, because, I did one last week, which was run by the Boston chapter, and it was 11 p.m. at night, but I could just log on and do it. Whereas previously you wouldn't have that exposure to be able to go and attend those. So it's really interesting, and something that we're looking to do for the Isle of Man chapter as well.
It's interesting how they adapt quickly. Going back to our first episode with David Bell, similar kind of model of getting a room, travel, being a herd, and all the 3 things you now can't do, and how quickly you have to pivot your business. But it's good. It's how you adapt quickly. And what about Founded?
So Founded is a new business that's set up with Alex and John. A lot of the stuff that we'll be doing will be similar to what Bridge was doing previously. But kind of on a more independent basis, working with some partners in the UK to bring, for example, potential startups to the island that are looking for funding, and vice versa. And also, so we'll be running the Startup Grind events we founded, but we'll also be looking to do some business consultancy and more of that kind of supporting early stage businesses on the mentoring side, and also marketing, business, finance, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. And we touched on earlier about sort of tips for aspiring entrepreneurs. Have you got any that jump out from your past experience? You mentioned resilience there. Is that something, if there's an entrepreneur out there, one of the things they need to, be persistent and keep pushing and...
Yeah, so I think that I'd say one of the books I've just finished reading is called How to Fail by Elizabeth Day. And it's not necessarily a work-focused book. It looks at various aspects of your life. So, of course, work is a big part of it, but, relationships, parenting, all sorts of stuff. And it's all about everything, like the tagline of it is everything I've learned from things going wrong, but it kind of does it in a positive spin. And it's all about, I do think that it sounds cliche, but it's not until you kind of go through certain experiences that you come out the other side that you actually sometimes see the positives from it. But a lot of the time, for example, say an entrepreneur gets knocked back by an investor, it's at the time it might be devastating if you've got your hopes up and you're really excited to move the business forward. But then down the line, it might come to light that, that wasn't going to be a great relationship, and you might have butted heads too much and ended up falling out, and it would have actually been too stressful and kind of detrimental to actually, partner with that person. So there's quite a few different examples of that kind of thing. Okay,
well, I'll jump forward a bit because I kind of always ask people we chat to about books they read. Have you got any other recommendations over your time?
I quite like Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, which is, so she's the COO of Facebook, and hers is all about, it's quite female orientated, but quite a good read for men as well. And it's about the challenges women are faced in the workplace. And, her tagline is, lean in, sit at the table. If you're not at the table, you can't voice your opinion. And the other one is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, I think, Ries. And that's, I've got it here actually. That's about how constant innovation creates radically successful businesses. And it's all about iterating and obviously running a business, through that lean methodology.
We'll add some of some links to our footer notes that people would want to look up and have a look up. So 2 more quick questions, if that's okay. You're president of the Isle of Man Business Network. So you've obviously been involved in for some period of time in that. How's that experience?
Yeah, so I think about 4.5, 5 years nearly now. That really came about when I was at Paddy Power and I was doing a lot of work off island. I really wanted to try and kind of reintegrate and be involved in the local business community, and went to, meet the committee at the time, and it was great. And I've met some great friends through it and actually really grown my business network. Obviously that is the point of it, but in more of a kind of friendship way, and quite a real what's the word, just really genuine people. And so it's been great. So I was originally doing the communications and then went to vice chair, chairman and president, and so I'll be handing over the baton at the end of this month.
And will you continue to stay involved?
Yeah, I'll stay on the committee. I think especially now that working on my own, being part of, a group like Startup Grind or the Business Network, it's great to have, because it gives you that team element whilst working for yourself. And I really think that the events they run bring a lot of value. And I'm not just saying that, but it's great to see the same people attending, and then you observe them meeting new people and becoming more confident as they kind of go through their careers, some of the people younger than me. And it's really great to see that.
Yeah, okay. And then finally, people want to reach out to you. What's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
So Katie Nicholson on LinkedIn, or my email is katie@katienicholson.co.uk.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate your time coming on today.
Problem.
It's much appreciated. Thank you.
It's been good. Good to chat.
And thank you to our listeners once again for listening. We'll be back soon. Thank you.